Welcome back to old Route 66. This morning we're getting started in Williams, Arizona, the gateway to the Grand Canyon and the last town on the Mother Road to be bypassed by the interstate. Williams is an old cowboy and railroad town named for an old trapper named Bill Williams. Oh, that's right. Somebody named that guy William Williams. And because it was the last town on Route 66 to be bypassed by modern interstates, and it was kept alive by tourism to the Grand Canyon, which is very close by, Williams is perhaps the most pristine example of an original Route 66 town in the United States. And of course that you can chalk up largely to the traffic flowing through town, which of course is due to the Grand Canyon being one of the most popular attractions for tourists on the planet. But as much traffic as there is coming through modern day Williams, even at its absolute summer peak, it pales in comparison to the amount that was here back in Route 66's heyday. Back then there were so many cars coming through town that there wasn't just one Route 66, there were two. Behind me is Railroad Avenue, which contains the westbound lanes of Route 66, and then just one block up, you have an entirely separate road for the eastbound lanes. Let's flash back from the Williams of today to the Williams of the mid-1950s. As you can see, the businesses may have all changed, and the cars have certainly changed quite a bit, but all the old buildings themselves are still pretty much perfectly intact. The old cafe is now a Southwestern gift store called Rain Dance, but even before that, starting in 1915, this was a drugstore. There are definitely far fewer auto supply stores, and you can see the one in our postcard is now a pizza factory. Mamma mia! But architecturally speaking, the town looks much as it ever did. Hey, how you doing, Dusty? Spiders everywhere. I got spiders in my crotch, spiders in my eyeballs. Okay then. It's just after 10 a.m. now, and you can see traffic is starting to really pick up, which makes this next shot a little difficult to get, but if I get into the middle of the street, looking this way, we can jump back to another 1950s postcard and check that out right there. Long gone are the old Arnold's Cafe and Vaughn's Indian Curios, but the building is still right here. The Mason Hall is still upstairs. This would have been Arnold's Cafe. Vaughn's Indian Curios now sells t-shirts for moms and wind spinners. The hardware store next door has also turned into another gift shop. But look at this, in between, above this sign, telling you the history of the building, built in 1901, by the way, you could still see the exact spot where that old sign used to be bracketed in at the bottom. Now going back to that old postcard for a second, check out the old Shell station there. That is sadly now completely gone. It is, however, one of the few historic gas station locations that is still a gas station. And although the old Shell station looked really cool with that angled front, and I love old gas stations, I am really glad that this Circle K is here now instead, because this Circle K was used in one of the greatest road trip movies of all time, also involving a train, thank you, Midnight Freakin' Run. Charles Grodin and Robert De Niro, by this time in an old truck, pull into Williams right here in front of the Grand Canyon Hotel, which frankly looks almost identical to how it did in the film. Then they pull down this street here, which looked a lot plainer back then than it does at the moment out here in Williams, and park right in front of that window. Of course, there was no outdoor dining area here at that time, but this was Red's Corner Bar in the film, where, if you haven't seen it, Charles Grodin convinces Bobby De Niro, who's a bounty hunter who has captured him, to uncuff him so they can basically steal some cash from the bar. As you can see, it is still a bar today, and just like in the movie, the trains are still rolling down the tracks right across the road. Sadly, it's not open yet, so I can't go inside. It's only 11:30 in the morning. Still a little early, even for Williams. But if we peek inside the window, you can see the bar is still in the exact location it was in the film, which is awesome, because it's the site of maybe one of my favorite, well, unless we're counting The Great Muppet Caper, my favorite Charles Grodin scenes of all time, where he asks the owner in here, what's the name of your establishment? And the very brown-haired manager says, Red's Corner Bar. He goes, are you Red? Yeah. And total deadpan, of course. Do you dye your hair? Psh, no. And why do they call you Red? Oh, it's short for Red Wood. My last name's Wood. What's your first name? Bill. I don't know. I guess you just gotta watch it. Something I highly, highly recommend. Anyways, these guys convince them that their $20 bills are counterfeit, take them out of here, and our next scene coming out of this very Circle K with arms full of groceries. You then get this shot of them sort of crossing the parking lot here, and in the background, check out that ice machine. I think this might be the exact same ice machine. Anyway, that's where Robert De Niro notices a train passing by the old depot, which is now the visitor center in Williams, and they run alongside the tracks to climb aboard, where of course they're spotted by the guys at Red's Corner Bar, of course, which leads to trouble and shenanigans, but I won't spoil the whole movie for you. Now, the original buildings in Williams, the 100-plus-year-old brick and masonry buildings that replaced the first round of wooden buildings, which of course burned up in a fire, as they do, are an extremely impressive part of Williams, that's for sure. Like this old 1912 Sultana Theater. But what I really love is that they're all juxtaposed right next door to the later automobile age structures. There are a lot of old motels here and tons of post-war automobile golden age architecture. And if you keep your eyes peeled, you'll also see a lot of old converted gas stations, like this one that is now the Cars of the Mother Road trading post. This place is epic because you can leave this gas station the way many other travelers in the past did, by riding around in a Model A for only 20 bucks. Oh dude, that is sweet. And if I had some more time, I would definitely fork out the 20 bucks, no problem. This place is awesome because they pay tribute to Williams' trapper history and its automotive history without being afraid to be a little bit silly. Look at this, they even have Cokes in the old cooler, which is really handy because even though it looks gray and overcast, it's actually really hot out here. If I could get in a bathtub right now and wash all the sweat off, I don't think I'd ever leave either. Hey dude, you could have at least taken your boots off. Probably how he died. Boot bacteria. Ugh. Oh, I love stuff like this so much. All right, I feel like we've barely seen anything, and I love Williams. I mean, I feel like it's the kind of place I could just settle down in and write books for the rest of my life or something like that. But I've got a lot more ground to cover today on old Route 66, so it's time to hit the road. Definitely hate to leave Williams, but I love getting out in those wide open spaces, particularly the older sections of Route 66 that are a little less traveled, like this road here. Oh, I love this. Beautiful pine trees, elk everywhere. Whoa! Well, it's a little less middle of nowhere, but we made it to our next stop. Welcome back to Flagstaff. Woo! The biggest city in northern Arizona, Flagstaff has always been a busy place and a very popular stop for travelers. As you can see by looking back in time, a lot has changed out here. No longer are there standard oil stations or gas stations on this corner. And even though Route 66 right here was undoubtedly jam-packed with cars all the time back in the day, somehow it seems like today there might be even more traffic. Interestingly, if you take a look back at that old postcard photo, you'll notice in the foreground is the Chamber of Commerce. And today, although the building has changed, the Chamber of Commerce is in the same exact spot. Today, the 1926 Santa Fe Depot serves as a visitor center for all the travelers coming down Route 66. A good reminder that all the big motor towns on Route 66 started out as big railroad towns. In fact, as you can see, it's still a big railroad town. One of the few that never lost its railroading character when the highway came in. And speaking of the highway, in those early years before auto courts and motels and fast food, a town like this, a big railroad town, was a boon to early highway travelers. And Santa Fe Street, as it was known then, now simply known as Route 66, was the hub of the wheel. If we take a look back in time, we can see Flagstaff sort of in the golden age of Route 66 auto travel. You'll notice that the Hotel Commercial is no longer standing here on this road, and the former Club 66 is now a store called Crystal Magic. That's the Sedona influence. Most of the classic buildings here are in great shape, especially this little strip right here. The frontage of the Grand Canyon Cafe, for example, has changed almost not at all. I mean, the tree obscures our view a little bit, but comparing this angle here to an old postcard, you can see they are virtually identical. Look at this, it's completely kept its old streamlined character. Look at those awesome windows, that crazy aluminum fronting is still up there. I almost said awning, but it's really not an awning, more like a bumper. And even though it now houses a different business, not only have they kept that amazing hand-painted lettering on the marquee, they've also kept that epic old-school neon sign. Dude, imagine rolling into town after driving through the desert. Hungry for some chop suey and rolling up on this place? Joe's place from our postcard is still a bar over there. Now it's the Mead Hall. Next door, the old Indian store in our postcard is still a Wild West trader selling all kinds of Native American crafts. The famous pizza and beer is the old bakery. Whoever took that old postcard photo would know exactly where they were if you dropped them here into 2021 today. In the old days, you would have stepped off a stopping train, maybe for lunch, or rolled through in the early years in your Model T or Model A, which by that point you would have been very thankful to get out of. So good thing this was a railroad town. You see, in order to lure in customers off a stopping or temporarily passing train at the Santa Fe Depot down there, a railroad town had to be very walkable, which old downtown Flagstaff still is to this very day, which is perfect because today Northern Arizona University is just a stone's throw away, which has kept this area modern and relevant while painstakingly they've preserved their history, like the Babbitt Brothers store built in 1888, or the very historic and purportedly very haunted Monte Vista Hotel, built just as Route 66 was coming along in 1927. Back in the earliest days of the highway, when people were still driving Model Ts across the country, a few of them would camp in or around their car. But when they rolled into towns, most of them would have stayed in big old hotels like this. You had to find parking, haul your luggage upstairs. Sometimes there were no elevators still. But as more and more people purchased automobiles, and as more and more people took to the nation's highways, the downtown areas of cities like Flagstaff became unbearably congested. Ooh, crystal magic. So if you were trying to book it across the country and you showed up here and there was no parking, you thought to heck with trying to find a space, and double to heck with hauling your luggage up rickety stairways into an old cramped hotel, because as the traffic grew and grew, so did these cities expanding out to either side with auto courts and motor hotels, which we know today as motels, specifically designed so that you could pull up in your car, take your luggage straight out into your door, into your room, plenty of reserved parking, no tipping bellboys. And so it was that most of the old hotels built for the railroads fell out of favor, which is why the hotel commercial I showed you earlier is no more. However, before we move on to talking about Flagstaff's many motels, there's one more building on this block that I have got to share with you. I'm a huge fan of it. Karma Sushi. This building right here is truly historic, both in terms of Route 66 history and local Flagstaff history, because this building here, now functioning as a rather anonymous sushi bar, was once the famous Black Cat Cafe. Not only did the Black Cat Cafe have maybe the coolest logo and branding of any business in downtown Flagstaff, which I will very shortly be putting on t-shirts. That's how obsessed with this place I've been. It was also a serious community hub back in the day. Old newspapers frequently mentioned the Black Cat as the scene of all kinds of events, and the cafe itself lasted for generations during a time where downtown was full of people who lived and worked here. Now, the original Black Cat Cafe was actually located somewhere else. The original owner, Frank Sufia, had it, I believe, down on this block. I'm not sure yet, but it was in 1932 when it moved to this location and got new owners Frank Warnica and Michael Purcell that it got that now iconic and historic Black Cat branding. What I think is amazing about this place is that even though it has a new marquee, and obviously it's a sushi place now, it still has that original 1930s red tile out front, along with that recessed entryway and the original wood-framed windows up there, latched with a very old chain. Not to mention those strange little wooden vents are still on the building. It's just one of my favorite places on old Route 66. Dude, there's a serious amount of traffic out here today. People are definitely glad to be back outdoors. Uh-oh, guys, watch out where you drive. Watch out for the manure! Manure! I hate manure! Now today, as the rain begins to fall here, this is a place where people peacefully eat their sushi. And before that, of course, a place where locals love to chow down at the Black Cat Cafe. But before this building was a stop for travelers on Route 66 back in the old railroad days, this was the site of the San Juan Saloon. At all hours of the day and night, people here like to drink and gamble and get rowdy. And in 1886, even murder. The owner and operator, John Barry, was dealing faro in there, sort of like a gambling game. You got a little table, there's cards involved. You get the idea. Anyway, Mr. Barry was dealing faro in there when all of a sudden a dispute arose. Brothers Bill and George Hawks, the Hawks brothers, claimed they were cheated, freaked out, and George all of a sudden shot Mr. Barry, killing him instantly. Both brothers were immediately arrested by the huge crowd that was in the saloon and dragged kicking and screaming just a few hundred yards away to the small 2-room wooden jail with the cells in the back and the justice of peace living up in the front. But the brothers didn't have to worry about a long stay in the pokey, because by the time the crowd got back to the saloon, realized that Barry was totally dead, not just mostly dead, the whole town was in uproar, and a violent mob marched their way over to the old wooden jail, kicked in the door, overpowered the justice of the peace, killed George in the doorway, and shot Bill, who, as far as I can tell, was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, in his cell, right over here, somewhere on City Hall property, at least according to the August 13th, 1946 copy of the Arizona Daily Sun. Personally, though, I think it's far more likely this event took place on LaRue in what is now an empty parking lot. As you can see on this turn-of-the-century map, it lists the old jail building, and that's an even closer walk from the old saloon. So as you can see, the Black Cat Cafe, much like the rest of Flagstaff, had its little bit of Old West history into the railroad era, into the automotive area. And sadly, what put places like the Black Cat out of business were places like this, the original site of the Lumberjack Cafe. These more modern mid-century roadside diners, as you can see, had plenty of parking here. No need to navigate through a congested downtown. No need to wait very long for a table. Plenty of dining space. And most importantly, they were perched on the outskirts of town so they could have those big parking lots. And they began to slowly but surely kill the old school restaurants in the downtowns, much like this neighbor across the street, the Elm Motel, and its other contemporaries killed off the old downtown hotels. And the Lumberjack Cafe, you may recall, is a Route 66 legend, not just because it was a nice place to go eat, but because back in the day, right along Route 66, straddling this doorway, which is built out a little more now, was a gargantuan statue of a lumberjack, the original Muffler Man. Today, in the sort of derelict, abandoned, a little bit scary parking lot of the old Lumberjack Cafe, there is a smaller homage to the original Lumberjack statue, which is still here in Flagstaff. He's now known as Louie the Lumberjack, and he's sort of a mascot now for Northern Arizona University. Copies of that original Lumberjack, better known as Muffler Men, are now strewn from coast to coast across the entire United States. But if you manage to navigate your way through the university campus, you can still come visit the original right next door to the Sky Dome. Would you look at the size of that lumberjack? He is absolutely gargantuan. Look at the size of that axe. Oh, he'd lumberjack you up, that's right. Dude, you hear all that thunder? Look at the storm. Wow. You know what's coming next, right? He's a lumberjack and he's okay. He sleeps all night and he works all day.
I cut down trees, I skip and jump. I like to press wildflowers. I put on women's clothing and hang around in bars.
It's crazy to think that that guy is the original of hundreds of these roadside attraction giants. And I was told that that was the original by Joel from American Giants. If you're interested in the Muffler Men / Lumberjacks, just look up the American Giants Instagram. Okay, there's a lot of stuff I want to do in Flagstaff. So many old motels, so many old buildings to explore. So of course I will be back, but with the storms rolling in, I think it's time for us to roll out and cruise through the rest of old Flagstaff quickly on our way to our next destination. Because once we've been to Flagstaff, Arizona, of course, we can't forget Winona. Dude, Winona, Arizona. I love it, it rhymes. Woo! I just switched to the old rain cap. The R for adventure hats are great, but rain kills them. Now you see where my car is on that red pavement, that classic old red pavement. That is old Route 66, the original alignment over this original bridge. Maybe you could sort of judge by my car there, or maybe you could just sort of judge by us standing here, but this is not a very wide highway here. And so not only were the new concrete bridges of the future a little sturdier, they were also a lot a bit wider. Oh, I love spots like this where you can just take a break and really feel coming across the country. Of course, it's raining on me right now, and raining a little fiercely over there. And even though it's about 90 degrees, the rain is actually making it feel really nice outside, and I can smell everything, you know, that summer rain. It's gorgeous. Anywho, other than the bridge, when you look around Winona, you don't see a lot of old stuff. You see a lot of modern manufactured homes, And as many times as I've been out here, and as much as I've collected old postcards and stuff, which if you ever find any old Route 66 postcards, you know who to send them to for Christmas, I can't find a lot of evidence that Winona was ever very large. So mostly, it's usually a stop for a photo op on the bridge, and that's about it for Route 66 travelers. But I do have one other historic location in Winona to look for, thanks to the one old Winona postcard I've been able to find over the years showing the Winona trading post. Take a look here. You can see the old Texaco station, trading post, cafe, and of course tourist cabins, or basically an old motel, along with its neighboring garage. And that was basically about the size of Winona back then, as far as I can tell. Now, I've never actually seen that old Texaco building, as far as I know, in Winona, but there is one gas station I know of here that I've never really looked at too closely. But as I always say, everything on Route 66 is worth a second look. Actually, I don't think I've ever said that before. But it's true. Dude, and holy guacamole. Seek and you shall find. I believe that, my friends, is a match for our trading post. The old awning and gas pump island is long gone, but you can actually see where the sign used to be mounted and see where the roof was lower with that little tile section. Crazy the way it used to look versus now. Well, what do you know? We stumbled across history once again. It's like a TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside. That drop ceiling is probably relatively modern, but you can see the old doors in here. Not to mention, they still have a little trading post area. And you know what? Don't mind if I do. Dude, how cool is that? The Winona trading post. I've been here before a million times and I didn't even know it. Whoa! The storm! Oh yeah, it's getting ugly back there in Flagstaff, and it's coming this way. Monsoon season in Arizona. All right, I'm gonna head back to the car. We didn't forget Winona, my friends. And that means we've done our duty. We have other adventures coming up on Route 66. Make sure to check out the online store. The t-shirts are being restocked very soon. Don't worry, you're gonna see me in just a second. When the storm abates, we'll be back for more adventures. Like I said, we've done our duty for now. So check out the online store and Instagram, and you can go home and sleep well. You'll notice in the old postcard, this place was a Texaco station, but the trading post now is a shell. I just noticed the sign has enough letters for Texaco. It's got a blank one. What the shell? Hey, look at this. Ooh, that rocks. But to get there, though, we're gonna have to burn some miles. He's now Louie the Lumberjack, and he's sort of a mascot for Arizona State Northern University. Man, I can never remember the name of that.